Coming to you from the Lydia Media Studios in the heart of Lewiston, Auburn, it's Lydia's Lunch Bunch, LA's afternoon morning show with Mark, Sarah, and Pam. We are covering news and events in the greater LA area and talking to the people making a difference in our community. Give us a listen at lydiamediallc.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And feel free to share your comments, questions, or suggestions via email at podcast@lydiamediallc.com.
Today's show is brought to you by United Piping, serving residential and commercial customers with new installations and repairs. Call today and schedule your oil and gas boiler cleanings at 754-4556. UPI, the best plumbers around. And by Ruper's Beverage and Redemption. When it comes to beer, wine, and spirits, don't botch it, squatch it at 5 locations in Lewiston, Auburn, and Oxford. Learn more at rupersbeverage.com. And remember, the party starts at Ruper's.
Our guest in studio today is Jayne Van Bramer, President and CEO of Sweetser, a behavioral health nonprofit that provides evidence-based treatment, support, and hope through a statewide network of community-based mental health recovery and educational services. Good morning/afternoon, Jayne. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great today.
Excellent. We record in the morning and release the episode in the afternoon, so both are appropriate. It's morning for us, but probably afternoon for the listeners.
Gotcha.
We're so happy to have you in studio and looking forward to learning more about you and all that Sweetser has to offer. Before we get there, let's take a look at some headlines for Thursday, January 9th.
Central Maine Healthcare announced it will be acquired by Prime Healthcare Foundation, a California-based nonprofit. Under the agreement, Prime would own all CMH services and facilities and offer all team members positions at comparable wages and benefits. Central Maine Healthcare has a network of over 600 physicians and advanced practice professionals in more than 40 locations, including Central Maine Medical Center in Lewiston.
The Sun-Journal reports that the Lewiston City Council voted 5-2 to install David Chittum as its new president. Chittum replaces Scott Harriman and will act as mayor during a temporary mayor's absence and help coordinate the city council's policy objectives.
Senator Susan Collins officially became chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee yesterday. Collins is the first Republican woman to chair the committee, which holds jurisdiction over all discretionary spending for the entire federal government.
Go, Susan.
Wow.
Governor Mills proposed a bill to help Maine prepare for future extreme weather worsened by climate change. Last year, the state invested $60 million to rebuild and recover after multiple storms. The bill would provide a one-time $15 million fund for grants to help homeowners pay for improvements to withstand flooding and storm damage.
The City of Auburn has partnered with Apparel Impact to repurpose old, unwanted clothing, shoes, and accessories. There is now a drop-off bin near the city's recycling bins on Gracelawn Road. The items do not need to be in good condition, as some will be used for rags and insulation. The initiative addresses over 1,000 pounds of unwanted textiles that end up in landfills throughout the country each day.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Here's Pam with the weather.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but here we go. Cloudy and windy today with a high of 26 and a low of 14. Sunny tomorrow with a high of 32 and a low of 20. We may see an inch or two of snow on Saturday with temps in the high 20s. Sunshine returns on Sunday with highs in the 30s.
Not too bad.
Getting better and better as the days
not
go
too
on.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take a couple inches of snow this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah.
The days are getting noticeably longer,
Yes.
too, I guess, if you haven't taken note.
I have.
It was 4:30 the other day, and I was like, the sun's still up.
Days are getting longer, but it's still 13 degrees
It's still
outside.
really cold. I know.
In sports, the Bruins have lost 5 in a row and will try not to make it 6. Tonight in Tampa Bay, face-off is at 7.
Yeah, lots of aggression when you were there, huh, Sarah?
Yeah, there was Trent Frederick, man.
He tried.
Oh
He
my
tried to turn the momentum.
He did. It was fun to watch him throw like haymaker after haymaker.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that guy's lats must be super strong. The Celtics will host the Sacramento Kings tomorrow night.
Luke Parmelo tallied a goal and an assist as the NA3 Nordiques beat the New Hampshire Junior Mountain Kings 4-2 yesterday. The Nords will host the Long Beach Sharks tomorrow and Saturday at the Coliseum.
And the Maine Nordiques will visit the Johnstown Tomahawks on Friday and Saturday.
The voice of the Portland Sea Dogs, Emma Tiedemann, was named the National Sports Media Association Maine Sportscaster of the Year. Tiedemann became the second ever female broadcaster in minor league baseball in 2018 before joining the Sea Dogs in 2020.
That's so cool.
That is cool. I love
She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She got to do a Red Sox game
I was
last
just
year.
going to
Yes,
say,
I did.
yeah.
She was
that.
supposed to do, I think, 3 innings, and she did so well, they let her finish the game.
Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. You're doing great.
That's
Yeah, I love it. On our high school scoreboard in boys basketball, it was Spruce Mountain over Oak Hill 90-61.
In boys hockey, Lewiston edged Falmouth 1-0.
Woo.
I know. And in girls hockey, it was Lewiston, Oak Hill, Mount Ararat, Morse over Greeley, Gray New Gloucester 4-3.
That is your news, weather, and sports. And right now, it is time for the podcast segment that is Sweeping the Twin Cities. It's time for famous people birthdays.
Some days it sweeps better than others.
Some days there are crumbs left behind. Absolutely.
Yep. They're famous. It's their birthdays. It's famous people birthdays. It's famous people birthdays.
Let's take a look at FPBs for January the 9th. We're going to start off with David Costable. Breaking Bad fans will know as Gale Bedecker. He is 58 years old today. He met a grisly demise in Breaking Bad, as did many characters. But he was also in Better Call Saul and the series Billions. Anybody hear of Crystal Gale?
Yes.
Anybody familiar with Crystal Gale?
Don't it make her brown eyes?
Yes, 74 years old today.
Oh, how old's her hair?
I don't know, but it's really long.
So long.
Yes, floor-length hair. That's one of her
just
trademarks.
Remember her swaying and her hair being down by her feet.
Yeah.
Wow, that's something.
She is a Grammy Award winner, and she got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and became a member of the Grand Ole Opry. She was inducted in 2017. Joan Baez,
Ooh, another one.
84 years old today. Singer, songwriter, musician, activist. Jane, you're familiar?
Absolutely.
All right. What's your favorite song by Joan?
Oh, gosh. So many.
I'm partial to Diamonds and Rust.
Good one.
That was...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was covered by Judas Priest back in the
Oh,
day.
gosh.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was a big metal guy, and I'm like, where did this song come from? And I researched it, and it was Joan Baez, and my mind, it just exploded.
Oh,
what can I
that's
tell you?
Alex's new thing. Every time he says something, he's like,
Wow,
I'm like,
I bet that doesn't get annoying.
yeah, no, not at all. It's cute.
Yeah, Joan performed at the original Woodstock back in 1969. Many will refer to that as the only Woodstock.
Yeah.
She was also inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017.
All right.
And rounding out FPBs for January the 9th is guitarist Jimmy Page
There we go.
of Led Zeppelin, who is 81 years old today.
Oh, wow.
It's Musician's Day.
Yeah, one of the greatest rock guitarists in history. He's right behind Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton. He ranked third in the top 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So he's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
He's all right.
he's unworldly.
That's right. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once as a member of the Yardbirds in 1992 and once as a member of a little band called Led Zeppelin
Who?
in 1995. Those are your FPBs for January the 9th.
Whether you want a sit-down meal or a grab-and-go, Pat's Pizza in Auburn offers delicious sandwiches, pasta, salads, and pizza at family-friendly prices. Pat's Pizza, serving the L.A. area since 1985. Open daily from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 85 Center Street in Auburn. Online at patsauburn.com.
Don't miss the January issue of Uncle Andy's Digest, featuring Greater Lewiston Auburn's 30th annual Best Businesses for 2024, plus a Valentine's Day gift guide, events calendar, shout-outs, and plenty of one-liners and jokes guaranteed to put a smile on your face. And be sure to visit UncleAndys.com and enter to win the Sweethearts Contest. You and your sweetie will appear in the February issue and could win a Valentine's Day gift basket. Uncle Andy's Digest, your local guide to, well, just about anything. Now we shift focus fully to our guest in studio, Jayne Van Bramer, President and CEO of Sweetser. Jane, we would like to know, before we get into what Sweetser is all about, we'd like a little bit of background on you and how you came to this position.
Sure. So I have over 30 years experience working in behavioral health. When I talk about my background, I usually say I grew up in the New York State psychiatric system. And that's because I got my first job in graduate school at Manhattan Psychiatric Center. I remember walking on the grounds of Ward's Island and going in those buildings and being very afraid.
Yeah.
It was chaotic, it was loud, it was overcrowded. At that point, we actually gave out cigarettes to patients. It's unbelievable. So there was smoke all over. And I thought I'd stay just a few years in that position. 34 years later,
Wow.
I retired from New York State. I was the senior associate commissioner, and I ran the public mental health system, which is the largest mental health system in the country.
Wow.
Then I joined the for-profit world for behavioral health. I worked in Pennsylvania for Universal Health Services, community health systems. I did that for a while. It wasn't a good values match for me. So then I went to Oklahoma and worked in a beautiful psychiatric hospital in an outpatient program. And most recently, I was recruited to work at Sweetser, which is a sweet spot. It is where I will end my career. I love it here.
How recent was that?
I've been here about 2.5 years.
At what point during your life, Jayne, did you decide that you were going to pursue a career in behavioral health?
You know what? This has been my passion as long as I can remember. For me, it's personal. I think we all know someone, either a family member, a friend, or a coworker who has struggled with a behavioral health disorder. And I always say to folks, if you don't know anyone, it's just because they're too ashamed to admit it, because this does impact everyone. I had a sister diagnosed with a serious and persistent mental illness. I saw it from the family's perspective, how difficult it is to navigate the system, and it just became my life's passion and my mission.
For those not in the know, can you tell us what Sweetser is all about?
So yes, happy to. Sweetser is a not-for-profit, and we provide evidence-based treatment, support, and hope. And when we say evidence-based, that means we take the research and we look at what are those interventions that really work? What makes a difference? And that's what we do. We don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to just do feel-good stuff. We want to provide those services that are really going to help people recover. So we serve individuals who are experiencing mental illness, substance use disorders, and really help them recover and be well. And we serve all age ranges from, young children all the way up to older adults.
And you have 8 locations throughout the state?
We provide services in 10 different counties, but we also have services that are statewide, and we have physical locations in 8 different counties.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And one of those is kind of brand new.
Absolutely.
Right?
We're real excited about
Right here in the Twin Cities.
Absolutely. Our Hope and Healing Center on Mollison Way in Lewiston. And that is a certified community behavioral health clinic. It is our third one. We have one in Brunswick, one in Sanford, and now our newest one is in Lewiston. And CCBHCs, or Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics, are really the best state-of-the-art behavioral health outpatient service that can be offered. And it's a compendium of 9 different services: med management, individual and group therapy, case management, peer support, mobile crisis, all these services to really wrap around folks for whatever they need.
So important and so needed in this area.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm most excited about with our CCBHC is we have walk-in hours. And access is a problem in Maine. There's a lack of providers, there's waiting lists. I mean, the state social work chapter did a survey early last year, and there are over 10,000 people waiting for outpatient services in the state of Maine. So to have walk-in hours on Monday and Wednesday from 9 to 3, where you can immediately get assessed, we can deal with some of your urgent, immediate needs, we connect you to services, we provide services. It's a wonderful program. We're very proud of it.
And Sweetser, I'm just learning now, has been around for nearly 200 years.
I saw that on the website.
That is not a typo. That's
Not a typo.
That's
How
for
many
real.
organizations can say they've been around for 200 years?
Yeah.
It is just, we're so proud. We're coming up in 28 on our anniversary. I think it's a reflection of our ability to adapt and change to the changing needs of Mainers. Originally, we were an orphanage. And we combined several orphanages. Then we got into mental health services, and now we're into substance use services. I do think that, we adapt and we meet the needs of our community. We are here for all Mainers.
Yeah.
200 years of adaptation. You kind of think you got it figured out.
I hope so.
That's great. I think you guys are, like I said, so needed in this area, and I love the walk-in service. Like you said, so many people are just waiting, and that waiting period can be just brutal for a lot of people.
It can be dangerous.
Right.
And what happens when you don't get those lower level services? Your illness gets worse, and then you end up going to an emergency room or going inpatient, the most expensive levels of care, if you can't access the more appropriate levels of care when you need
Right.
them. One of our services that has been particularly successful is our Peer Warm Line, and this is a 24/7 line and we say it's low barrier, meaning you don't have to give your name. You don't have to give insurance information. You can call anytime from any place in Maine and talk to someone with lived experience. And that means you're speaking with someone who's walked in your shoes, someone who is in their own recovery journey from either substance use or a mental health concern. And those conversations generally last about 20 minutes. They're long conversations where we really just inspire, motivate, give advice, give resources, and it is really a great service. So I want to make sure folks know about this free peer support line, and the number is 866-771-9276, and that's available 24/7.
Wow.
And on the other end of the continuum, we have the crisis service, the mobile crisis service. And we are the mobile crisis provider in 10 counties, but it is, again, there's other providers in all of Maine counties. And to access that number is 988. So 988 is the 911 for behavioral health.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
How convenient.
That is
Yeah.
convenient.
When folks come in off the street to visit the center, what does that support and care look like, and what services are available to them?
Sure. So when you come in, you would be asked to fill out some demographic information, some background information. So there's some paperwork that's done. And then you will be kind of asked, what is your presenting problem? In other words, why are you here today? What brought you in? And you will meet with what's called a care coordinator, which is someone who will really review your intake information and kind of decide, what path you take. You also will meet with a clinician that day who will do a formal screening and an assessment. So you will be meeting with a licensed clinician. And depending upon how you present, we do all kinds of screening. Of course, we'll screen for self-harm or suicidality. We screen for, smoking, and we'll connect you to the quit line. If you're presenting with anxiety and depression, we have an evidence-based tool that will help us assess that. So that first walk-in appointment can last up to 2 hours.
Wow.
It's pretty intensive. And you will leave with a follow-up appointment with a care coordinator to make sure that you're connected. So if if one of your concerns is housing, we'll make sure we do a referral to the housing authority. And we can even have a case manager accompany you to that appointment if it's difficult for you to navigate those kind of things. If you're having trouble with Social Security, we'll make sure we get an appointment for you at the Social Security office. And again, if that's something that you have trouble doing, we can actually send a staff member with you.
It's something you don't even think about, really. People have all of these avenues to go and get help, but a lot of people have a hard time really knowing what to ask, knowing where to go, and then to like all the follow through that needs to happen to receive any type of services or get that help that they need. It's great that someone can support them in doing those things to get them through the entire process, and not just like, here you go, this is where you need to go, the number you need to call, and then just leave them
Absolutely.
to do
I mean,
the rest.
these systems can be hard for us to navigate.
Right.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Now
It's a
imagine
lot.
if you're
Yeah.
suffering with, a substance use disorder or a mental health issue, how, difficult and intimidating it can be.
Just the simple things of being overly stressed or having a trauma or, just a lot on your plate. It's not just, substance abuse or things like that. There are other things more simple that people might be going through that they need help with this for.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
great.
So
The
this model
depression
is
and-
like sweeping the nation.
Right.
It is the
great.
state-of-the-art behavioral health model. And so there are several CCBHCs in Maine run by different organizations, but Sweetser is the only one that's been able to implement the walk-in hours. And to me, that's the crux
It's
of what's
incredible.
successful
100%,
about it.
Yeah.
Plus, when you have an illness, sometimes you're ready to get treatment. But if you're told your appointment is in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks you can be in a different place.
You could be in a different place in 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
So when you have the opportunity to just walk in and get the care you need, that's a huge step in the right direction.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Right?
I
love it,
It's clear
yeah.
that you're passionate about
Yeah.
what you're doing, and that's I think that's an important part of the whole process, is having caring individuals who want to see these changes and want to remove some of the barriers for people with mental health issues to get the help that they need. Like, we need more people like you.
Are there resources available for folks who may be struggling financially or don't have insurance?
We make it our job really not to turn away anyone who cannot or can afford services. One of the things that, is difficult about Maine, too, is that, individuals, even if you're covered by insurance, I'd like to talk a minute about parity. And parity is equality between insurance coverage for physical health versus behavioral health disorders. And when you say behavioral health, it includes both mental health and substance use. So the Affordable Care Act many years ago made our co-payments the same and made our lifetime limits the same. What was not made the same is the size of the panel. So when you are seeking behavioral health services in Maine, you are 11 times more likely to be out of network.
Oh.
And when you're out of network, what does that mean for the person?
Paying out of pocket.
Yep.
It's more expensive, right? It's a lot more expensive in some
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
So I think, the fact that we can help people, it is really important financially. We have our Mental Health Matters Fund. We do a great job in terms of trying to get donations and, our philanthropy work. It is important that we are able to get donations so that we can support people. We gave about $1 million in free care last year, just in 1 year.
Wow.
As someone who I participate in therapy just because I feel like that's good for
Helps
everybody.
It does.
And especially during COVID, I experienced going from in-network to out-of-network. And the shift from paying only $25 to
Yes.
paying $170 per session
amazing.
meant, now instead of every week, I'm seeing my therapist once a
Yes.
month, which I'm okay, and that's fine. But for some people, that's not an option. They need
Absolutely.
that. They need that appointment every week. And to not be able to afford it is not an option.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jayne, when I was growing up, the term mental health didn't really exist.
No.
I didn't hear about it until recent years. When did that shift take place?
That's a great question. And, I would say that's related to part of the stigma that's always been associated with mental illness. And, I think that's part of it, to address it and to normalize it, that, we all have mental health challenges, whether it's some mild anxiety, whether it's some nervousness about, I went to the dentist yesterday, some nervousness about that. I think changing it to mental health just makes it more palatable for the public. It's interesting, like in most of my other jobs, I also ran psychiatric hospitals in addition to outpatient programs. I love the fact that part of our job at Sweetser is to keep people out of the hospital. But I do think I really saw the stigma in hospitalization. I would say the nightstands of my patients were not adorned with flowers. They did not get well cards. And when you think about it, even with behavioral health, if you have a child who's, in a substance use program, well, if you have a child who's undergoing cancer treatment, your neighbors are making you casseroles, they're cleaning your house. Does that happen when you have a child who's in a mental health hospital or in a substance use recovery program? And why is that? And what's underneath that? And how do we work to shift that? And that's part of what we do at Sweetser, whether it's our free mental health first aid training we'll do for businesses, organizations to kind of, help people understand it and attune it, but also by doing programs like this and, just reminding people these illnesses do not discriminate. It is everyone's family. It's everyone's neighbor. They reach every geographic area, every socioeconomic area, every ethnic, every racial area. It is all of us.
Going back to talking about when did the shift happen, I don't obviously know the answer to that, but I remember a movie called The Aviator. It was about Howard Hughes. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah. I don't.
And he was very obsessive compulsive, and he became so. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but I know the story of Howard Hughes.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio was Howard Hughes, and I remember watching that and just like those things weren't talked about. And I think that movie came out maybe early 2000s or something.
Or, for instance, The Beautiful Mind.
A Beautiful Mind.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know how old I was when I watched it, but there was so much shame behind it, and people didn't know how to deal with it, but they were like, this guy has a problem. And we're like, okay, lock yourself in a room. We'll just walk away because we don't know what to do. And, now we're building on that and learning that there is help and there are things we can do and there can be some, understanding and proactiveness that can happen to help these people.
If you talk about the media, I do think they can influence the way we view this. And, I grew up with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest movie and Nurse Ratched, and that's what I knew about behavioral health. And now we do have movies like A Beautiful Mind, but we also have, actors and we have athletes, Simone Biles, people disclosing Me Too.
Right.
And I do think that makes it easier for folks to say, it's my family too, it's my neighbor too, it's my coworker too. And it just makes it easier for us to talk about it and to seek help. You have to be brave to, to come out and say, I need help. These people should be applauded.
Yes. Generationally speaking, I think, as we've moved through the last 5 decades, there's a big shift in how people view mental health.
Yes.
Because I know, growing up, all 3 of us are part of Gen X. It was you're okay, right? And
just
you
deal with it.
Just keep going.
Suck
and
it
I
up.
think, right, you're okay. And I'm sure the generation of our parents was like, the quiet, you're fine, you don't talk about it. But now, raising our own children, it's very different for us. We talked about mental health all the time with our sons and daughters, and we said it's okay to not be okay. And I think that change in the inheritance of how we view mental health from generation to generation definitely moves forward this removal of that stigma of you don't have to be okay all the time. It's really okay.
Absolutely. That's well said.
It seems like it went from shame to weakness to everybody has it.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
Jayne, you've spent a lot of time in the behavioral health field, over 30 years. You've worked in a lot of areas throughout this country. Do you find there is a big need for mental health care across the state of Maine?
That's a really interesting question because when I came up here to interview, I remember just falling in love with. I love the Adirondacks in New York State, and that's what Maine reminds me of.
Oh.
So I just fell in love with the area, and I thought, everybody's hiking and outside and kayaking, and everybody's going to be healthy.
Paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding.
Right, and that's not the case, actually. If you look at some of the statistics in Maine, whether it's completed suicide rates or whether it's the presence of anxiety and depression or ACE, adverse childhood experiences among our children, Maine, scores poorer than national averages. So there is a really quite a heavy need for services in Maine. And, there is a lack of providers. When you look at psychiatrists across the country, like 60% of them are over age 60. So we're on the verge of a retirement cliff. So, the response to that has been, which I think is good, to expand the use of psychiatric nurse practitioners and physician assistants, to provide that medication management service. But, for those really serious illnesses and certainly for inpatient treatment, I would support that you really do need a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But we definitely a need in Maine, definitely.
That's because it's so dark and cold.
Right.
I think it kind of goes hand in hand with our latest issue of LA Metro Magazine.
Yeah.
We focused on health and wellness, and there are some mental health stories in there.
Yeah.
But one of them, not specifically on mental health, but talks about seasonal depression and how, the lack of sunlight really affects a lot of people. And it's kind of something that you don't think about. You're just kind of like, why am I shifting? And, in mood and all of that. So
I think the rural nature of a large part of Maine makes it difficult to access services, and the paucity of providers in those areas and clinicians.
The improvement of the network up there, as far as like the internet and broadband connectivity, is I'm hoping has made an impact on how things are affected up there.
Absolutely.
Good.
I think so. And there is more telehealth, which has also been a response to that.
It's helpful where you don't have to go anywhere, travel.
Right.
If you're an hour away from like the closest provider and not having good internet access, you're stranded.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
And when you think about our youth and how they grew up, at least compared to how I grew up, the impact of social media, we're starting to understand it, and how negative that is. I fully support those schools that are saying no phones at schools.
100%.
I fully support that. I think, I was listening to a speech the other day, and this person was talking about how you walk into a cafeteria, like when I was in school, the noise was deafening. And now you walk into a school cafeteria and it's silent because everybody's on their phone. And, our kids need to learn how to communicate. We need to, they need to learn how to, navigate disagreements. You don't do that on your phone.
It's so true. So true. Getting them to, you specifically have to say, someone's talking to you, you need to look at them and respond.
Right. Eye contact.
Like, don't look at me when someone's asking you a question. Like, I'm not your puppet, or you're not my puppet. Like, turn and look at them and respond. You know the answer. I have had to do it, and it's crazy that I raised my son where at a very young age, Mom, I have to go to the bathroom. Well, there's a person that works here. Go ask them where the bathroom is, and
That's great.
He knew he could talk to anyone from 2 years old to 92 years old. He communicated so well with everybody, and I think that was because I forced him to communicate with everybody he came in contact with.
It's interesting to have kids of a varying age. So we have kids in our household that are 14, 16, and 20.
Wow.
And the difference between how the 20-year-olds, the 16-year-old, and the 14-year-old can communicate with other adults and other people is fascinating, because the oldest obviously was just on the cusp of cell phones being in the hands of children, and we prevented him from having one until he was 14. So and now the 14-year-old has had a cell phone since he was 10.
Yes.
So it's just
They're
like
in elementary school.
It's really interesting to see the shift in how they can communicate with people and how they connect. Because the lack of connectivity is definitely a barrier for some people, children, adults, all of us. in improving our mental health. Like if you can't communicate, you can't connect with people, you do feel very isolated and alone. And I think that cell phones have impacted that for a lot of
And
people.
I think, teens are judging their self-worth on how many likes they get.
Right.
I mean, it's really so sad.
Social media is definitely not a good thing for them.
It's unfortunate, but that's where we are today.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having a cell phone when I was in school.
So glad we didn't. Oh, boy.
I wonder, too, though, if we'll see again that generational shift of this isn't helping us, this isn't making us healthy, as we raise our younger children with cell phones in hand. Like, are we going to see that change in how we raise children and how we have them approach social media? Like
I hope so.
Maybe we'll see that shift. I hope so too.
Yeah.
And I think, as evidenced by this conversation, the mental health system is getting better. It's improving in Maine and throughout the country. Where do we go from here? What do we need to improve?
Our biggest challenge with service expansion is recruitment of clinicians. And that's, licensed social workers, licensed clinical professional counselors. So we're actually putting through some legislation that will make it easier to come from other states. And Maine is beautiful. People will want to come here. Let's make it really easy for them to do that. And we're looking at things like, stipends for, their practicums work. Because what we're finding when we talk to the universities is that, these students are taking years longer to complete their degree, their master's degree, because they have to do 200, 400, 600 hours of practice, and they're not paid for that. So how do they balance that between a job? So many of them are raising a family. It really is difficult. So we're trying that. We did get a John T. Gorman grant last year to actually work on the clinician pipeline. So we came out with some ideas about that. We're working really hard to address this issue. What we find also, at least in the not-for-profit world, we get a lot of students who come as soon as they graduate, and when they're fully licensed, we do their supervision to get them fully licensed, and then they want to go into private practice. And that's kind of like their nirvana, or at least it's their perceived. I think once they deal with the insurance and billing, it's not so easy.
They're like, never mind, this isn't as great as I thought.
But, we see that. We've had some nurse practitioners leave for all cash private practices. They won't even take insurance.
Wow. Jayne, this has been fascinating, and we so appreciate your time today. Is there anything else about Sweetser that you would like our listeners to know?
I guess I would just like them to know that we're here for them, that, we are committed to helping all Mainers with their mental health needs, and seek us out for services.
Yeah, and like you said, if you're not one of those people, you know someone.
Everybody
so
does.
Direct them to Sweetser.
Absolutely.
And let them know that there's all kinds of different things that they can be helpful for. So
I love that free peer support line.
Yes.
It's
huge.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Every year we go up. I think I started 3 years ago. We had 21,000 calls and 25,000 calls. We were over 30,000 calls last year.
Wow.
That's great.
It's unbelievable.
Is that a volunteer?
No, they're paid. They're
They
paid
are?
peers.
Oh,
No,
wow.
we pay our peers.
That's fabulous.
And can you give us one more time the best way to get in touch with Sweetser?
Sure. Well, we have a promise line, which is how you access our services, which is an 800-434-3000. And our Lewiston new Help and Healing Center, you can get more information on that by looking at lewistonhealing.org.
And the 988 number as well. Very
That
important.
is for crisis.
Yes.
But absolutely call 988. That is your 911 for behavioral health issues.
Locally owned and locally focused, Lydia Media celebrates the heart of the greater Lewiston-Auburn area through 2 magazines, Uncle Andy's Digest and LA Metro Magazine, and the new Lydia's Lunch Bunch podcast. Each production shines a positive light on local businesses, nonprofits, events, and individuals making a difference in our community. Keep your advertising dollars local and position your business in front of your target audience with Lydia Media. Learn more at LLC.com. Jayne, we like to close out the show with a little segment we call 3 Random Questions.
Okay.
Where we like to get to know you a little bit outside of your behavioral health center. So I will start. We'll each ask you a question. If you could have lunch with anyone from the past or the present, who would you choose?
I would probably choose Michelle Obama. Just because I like her commitment to the public. I like her passion about making sure the underserved are served. I would probably pick Michelle Obama.
All right.
I'll go next.
I don't have one yet.
What was your favorite toy growing up as a child?
Barbie.
Yeah?
Barbie, yeah.
Barbie.
Barbie and horses.
Did
And
you have the Barbie with the horse?
I did, and
Yeah.
I had the midge. I had the whole 9 yards.
I
and
love it.
I'm terrified of horses to this day, but I like the plastic ones.
I had the plastic horse too. Yeah. It was fun.
What do you think is the quickest way to turn around a bad day?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. Chocolate.
That's a good answer.
Dark chocolate, because it's better for you.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That'll do it. That'll
Yeah.
put a smile on your face.
Yes. Yeah.
Jane, you did so well with these 3 questions and this rarely ever happens, but you made it to the bonus round.
Oh, gosh.
So,
thought it was Liz's turn.
so we're going to add your name to the list. There's only like 3 other people on it. So
Wow.
it's a big deal. So you qualify for one more question.
Okay.
All right. And it's one of my favorites. What did you learn about yourself during COVID?
That's a great question. I was in Oklahoma when we had the biggest bout of COVID. And I guess I learned that I'm really pretty resilient. One of the things we had to do, as they were giving out those first vaccinations, the focus was on medical hospitals. And they Oklahoma kind of left out the psychiatric hospitals. So I had to, through LinkedIn, I reached out to the CEOs of all the big medical hospitals, and I got, Oklahoma University Hospital to agree to vaccinate our staff. So to me, I was very proud of that, but it also, I took responsibility for my workforce, and I was like all night long, like, on LinkedIn, help us. And I got somebody to do it for us, which was great. So my resilience, I think.
Incredible.
Thank you so much for playing our game and for
Yeah.
being our guest today.
Yeah.
We so appreciate it. And we have someone who's been off mic, but is in the studio, who we'd like to bring in right now. She was here to give some moral support, I guess, for Jane.
Yeah.
Liz Smith, Community Relations Associate. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for chatting with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And
Absolutely.
you are willing to play 3 random questions.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Let's do
great.
it.
Great. Let's do it. Here we go. Liz, if there was a movie made about your life, who would play you?
Ooh. I'd have to say possibly Zendaya.
Okay.
I think, I've been told every now and then that I bear a resemblance to Zendaya, which is such a compliment, and I don't really see it, but, to have her portray my life, I think that would be really fun.
All right.
So fierce.
She really is. She really is.
Let me ask a follow-up question. What would be the highlight of the movie?
Ooh. Oh, gosh. Probably meeting my fiance.
All right.
Aw, that's sweet. Now he's listening and going, oh.
You have to make sure he listens.
Yeah.
Yes, I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, you have to listen all the way to the end. 'Cause I'm-
That's right.
That's great.
I have a question. Would you rather live at the bottom of the ocean in a bubble for a year or in outer space?
Oh gosh. The bottom of the ocean really scares me. So I would have to say outer space.
Okay.
Something about, the creepy crawlies and the pressure and
It's
the
terrifying.
darkness. It's scary.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
outer space. Yeah.
See, I envision it like a Sandy Squirrel situation
Yeah.
where it doesn't seem so scary, but
Someone's watched a lot of SpongeBob.
I mean, they seem so nice down there. I don't know why everybody's so nervous
I
about
certainly
it.
hope that's what's at the bottom. At the depths of the ocean. I really do.
Sandy the squirrel is most definitely not at the bottom of the ocean.
How do you know? Have you been? You don't know that.
Oh my gosh.
Boy, it's my guess.
Okay.
Educated guess.
It's fair. That's fair. I'll give that to you.
If you could instantly learn one skill, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. Either a foreign language or an instrument. And I think for a language, I've always wanted to learn German.
Oh,
So,
all
yes,
right. What about what instrument?
I'll choose an easy one, bass guitar. I've
Ooh.
always wanted to learn, and I think I just need to sit down and do it. So,
Nice.
Like
Basic.
slap bass.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right into it.
Upright
Yeah.
bass,
Oh
like,
my
you know.
God. Yeah.
I think that'd be really fun.
Yay.
Pam, that's one of yours too, right? It's either an instrument or singing for you.
Singing.
Singing.
Yeah, I'd like to be musical, but singing for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Liz, final question. What did you learn about yourself during COVID?
Oh gosh, I think it's not as inspiring as Jayne's, unfortunately. I think probably the biggest thing I learned is how introverted I really am. And I think that's a lot of people I've spoken to have had that same knee-jerk reaction to COVID. I definitely kind of was comfortable just not talking to a lot of people. So it's been... But I love people. So I'm happy that it's over and we can kind of come back and into the community and meet with one another again. So
It was just such a weird time.
it was a crazy time.
Weird time.
It was a crazy
You're
time.
looking at pictures of New York City and nothing is happening. No one's on the street.
Right, maybe a bird.
Right. You're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
I was in Dallas at the time. Same thing. I was like, this is so strange. Let's go on the boat.
What else are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Having that was probably nice.
Yes,
huh?
that was
Yeah.
nice.
Liz, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, absolutely.
And for
Thank
joining
you,
us and
guys.
playing our stupid little game.
No, it's fun.
We appreciate it. We want to thank our sponsors for today, Ruper's Beverage and Redemption and United Piping. And if you'd like to be part of the Lydia's Lunch Bunch advertising family, reach out to Pam via email at pam@lydiamediallc.com. We have our weekend preview coming up tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll catch you then.
As well as Tasting Tales.
Tasting Tales.